Hey guys, it's Vin. Let's talk about the percent chance that you will actually see a second stimulus payment. I also want to let you know when I think the timing of that is going to occur with some information that I have. And also, will the payments be reoccurring or not? If there's enough time, I also want to talk with you about a second quarantine, which is something you need to be getting prepared for. Also, if you're new with us and you weren't with me when I did the first stimulus updates, consider subscribing. We did a really good job on this channel. We gave out very specific dates and some really good information to help people get through that first stimulus payment. And now the second one is coming up. If you feel like you want to be a part of a channel that's really just going to give you the straight facts and some good information, consider subscribing. So let's go ahead and get into this. What is the percentage chance that you will actually see a second stimulus payment with no nonsense attached to it? In order to come up with that percentage number, I think there's really three factors that are important. Number one, it needs to have bipartisan support. Number two, is it something we've done before? And number three, is it necessary? The good thing with a second stimulus payment is it passes all three of these tests. It does have bipartisan support, or at least enough bipartisan support that another stimulus payment is likely. Second, they've already done it before. Our Congress likes passing things that they've already done before, something that there's already been a precedent for. And because they've already done it, it is likely they would be willing to do it again. And third, it is absolutely necessary. Enough people are out of work. Enough people haven't gone back. Things are not opening up quickly enough for there not to be another stimulus payment. It passes all three, so I am going to give another stimulus payment to you a 95% chance of occurring. I'm not going to say 100% chance because anything can happen. And so now, based off of these valid factors, having an idea of the percentage chance that it is likely you're going to see another stimulus payment, when can this be expected to happen? We started covering this last week on the channel, and we said the Senate isn't even going to take up this bill until after Memorial Day. So far, we've been correct. We're just basing this off what the senators are saying. They're really saying what they believe in many cases. So the earliest timeline that they're going to even start debating this thing is going to be on Tuesday, May 26th, and that's the earliest. They may even start on Wednesday or Thursday. Now, once that chamber starts debating the House's bill, it's going to take them at least a week to work through all the stuff. It's going to be pretty contentious, and there's a lot of strong opinions in the Senate about this House bill. So there's going to be a lot of back and forth. I don't foresee them passing it in that first week. I think it's going to take them until the first week of June in order for the Senate to pass the bill. And when they do pass it, it is not going to be the same bill. They're going to rewrite it and make it something different. Now, whenever a chamber of Congress does this, the Senate changes up a House's bill. That is now no longer the same bill, and it must go back to the House to be passed again because it would have different stuff in it. The question is going to be when the Senate changes up the House's bill and then they pass it back off to the House, will the House then just look at the Senate's changes and go, okay, that's good, now we'll pass it and get this thing through to be signed? I highly doubt it. I think the House is going to get the Senate's changes and they're going to say, nope, we don't like all these changes. We need to rework this. That is very possible. And you can start to see the problem happening in the timing here because all of a sudden we're starting to push it back. First week of June, second week of June, third week of June for this back and forth to occur. So what if the House doesn't like the Senate's bill? What then happens in that case? Well, this occurs actually quite often. And what will happen is each chamber, the House and the Senate, will send off a committee of representatives to then talk about change and compromise on a final bill that they know both chambers are going to be willing to pass. And that may likely happen in this situation too. So with all of that said, when do I think they're finally going to pass this? Because I think they will. Because I think, again, as I said, it has bipartisan support to pass another stimulus, especially one that has more direct payments to Americans. I believe they've already done a lot of this before, so there's past precedents, and it's necessary. So they will pass this. And the number 3 one, it's necessary, is the one that's going to ensure that they do it at least within a month and not just stay in this thing in perpetuity or just let it dissolve into nothing. They will eventually pass it, but because I think the Senate's going to change the bill, the House is going to want it to change too, they're probably going to use smaller committees to compromise, I don't see this bill passing until mid to late June. So that is my timeline. That is my educated guess right now. So 95% chance you will see a second stimulus payment, and the House and the Senate won't officially pass it until mid to late June. And then it needs to be signed by President Donald Trump, and he will sign it, because if he doesn't, that would be political suicide. So he will absolutely sign whatever is put on his desk. So finally, what are the chances that this bill that they eventually do pass is going to have reoccurring payments? As far as I'm concerned, I don't think it's very likely for a number of reasons that we already talked about. Number one, it doesn't have bipartisan support. Number two, there's no precedent for it. The Congress didn't do it the first time, and the Congress doesn't like doing things that they didn't already do. They hate that stuff. So they're probably going to do the thing that they've already done, which is a one-time stimulus payout. And then you have to talk about necessity. There's enough people who believe it's not necessary. Personally, I think it is. I think that they should be able to do monthly payments throughout the 2020 year. I already showed in the video how that's possible. There was also a poll done by OnePoll in which 2,000 adults were asked if they think reoccurring payments are necessary right now, and 82% out of the 2,000 thought that another one-time payment was not enough. So the people believe it's necessary, but the Congress doesn't. I showed how it could be done. I don't think they're going to do it. So a 95% chance of another one-time payment being passed mid to late June, which means you will eventually see that payment in your account sometime in July. Now let's talk about a second quarantine, and I think this is something you need to get prepared for. This is not a fairy tale. This thing is likely to happen. I mean, I would even say 50-60% chance of happening. And this is what I mean. Right now, states are loosening up all of their quarantine efforts. People are getting back to work. They're letting places reopen up and get back to normalcy. And I think this will continue to happen throughout the summer. And by the end of summer, I think many places will see a full reopening. Because COVID-19 is a coronavirus like the colds are, a lot of times these things spring back up in the autumn and winter months. It's just the way they work. They're cyclical. And if this happens with COVID-19, and I would say there's a 50-50 shot that it will, you will start to see it spike back up probably in the autumn to winter months. And if that happens, a second quarantine is very likely. This is something you need to be mentally prepared for. And the question would be, how would Americans respond? How would you respond? Would you be okay with a second quarantine? Would you be like, you know what? We did what we did already. At this point, let's just go forward and deal with the consequences. Or would you say, nope, second quarantine, yes. If we have to do a third quarantine, a fourth quarantine, it doesn't matter. We'll keep doing these into the future for as long as we need to until this thing is gone. Where do you stand on that? I mean, this is something you really need to get prepared for. It could possibly affect our lives for a long time. I think there was even a British study that I saw in which they were recommending that societies have 30 days of normalcy and 50 days of quarantine. 30 days of normalcy, 50 days of quarantine. What do you think about that? I mean, in all honesty, though, prepare yourself mentally for this. It is a possibility, especially if there's no cure for it. What are your thoughts? I have my own. I'm not going to share them, but what are your thoughts? I hope you guys found this information valuable. Like I said before, if you weren't with us on the first stimulus payment, you can see how this channel and how I am going to offer you, I believe, some really good information about the second stimulus. Timelines, the amounts, and good stuff that I think is necessary for you on how to get your money, when to get it, and just the different tools you can use. Consider subscribing to the channel. I'd love to have you come along with us. As always, I will catch you guys next time.